everybody! So, posting my review of Step, I thought it would be fun to share with you some other documentaries that I really like, that I think are worth your time. This is not in order of my favorites, this is just a bunch that I like. So, I don't know, they're just also different, I can figure it out. I will say, going into this, I'm not a fan of message documentaries, propaganda documentaries, things like Michael Moore or Dinesh D'Souza, people like that. Not into it. Not really a big fan of things like Blackfish and stuff like that. Like, it's just too manipulative. I'm just not a fan. I realize that all movies are manipulative, but those ones are particularly, I think, edited in a way that is very, very one-sided. So I don't have any of those kinds really on my list. Maybe you could argue one, maybe, but they're all just telling stories. So here we go. So first one I want to talk about is The King of Kong. This is a really, really cool documentary about this battle to have the Donkey Kong world title, and it's between, it was already world record holder of points, and it was between this guy Billy Mitchell and the Steve Webby, I think is the other guy's name. And the Steve guy, he's just like, he has nothing going on in his life, like, and he's not like a super sympathetic character. Like, he's sometimes kind of rude to his kids, and so it's sort of a, it's an interesting, it feels real authentic, it feels real true, like that this is really an accurate portrayal of these guys. And definitely Billy Mitchell is definitely not a nice guy. He's definitely portrayed as the villain of the story, and so yeah, it's one of those things where it's like the smallest thing, a random thing, can give somebody some like value to their life, and even if it's the world record in Donkey Kong. So that one's a lot of fun. Next up, I have The People versus George Lucas. This dives all into the history of particularly Star Wars, a little bit Indiana Jones, mostly Star Wars, and what happened with the fandom as far as George Lucas and the prequels, and this was made before Force Awakens. Things have changed a little bit in recent years, but it's still really interesting, I think, as a sort of discussion of modern fandoms and hype and movies and pop culture, and particularly the way Star Wars just changed everything. Up, I have live animated. Last year was a really good year for documentaries. There were a bunch that I could have chosen, but this one is really sweet about this autistic boy who was not communicating at all for almost 3 years, and it was through Disney films that his family was able to finally break that silence, break that barrier, and able to communicate with him. And he ends up creating his own stories called it's like the League of Sidekicks. And it's really, really, really a wonderful, sweet, it's not patronizing at all to people with autism or anything like that. It's just telling this story of this kid and how they found the one thing that they can communicate with, and it just happens to be Disney movies, so, which of course I'm gonna love. I just talked about in my review, I have Step. This movie just inspires me so much. It's about school choice, that I'm very passionate about that topic. It's about really not discounting anybody, fighting for everybody, whether they're in the inner city or not, whether they're struggling or not giving up, viewing nobody as a lost cause. Of course, it does have a dance element. Just really inspiring. I love all the girls, and it's just wonderful. Next up, this is the one that maybe you could consider a message movie, but I don't think so. It's Enron, the smartest guys in the room, and this goes all into the Enron scandal, and it's so fascinating how, like, one rationalization of poor choices, and then another, and then another, and another, and another follows until they have rationalized taking everything from all of these people, and they believe that not only are they doing something right, something good, something moral, but they are doing something better, something innovative. They've convinced themselves that this is the way that everyone else is falling behind, and it's amazing how they're able to convince Arthur Anderson and these long-term, so many people, the SEC, there's just so many people that gave it a pass, and you gotta admire the whistleblowers, and just really fascinating film. Next up I have Tower. This was an amazing documentary. It was in my top 10 last year, and it's all about this, one of the first school sniper shootings, and it's in 1967, I believe, in University of Texas, and this man is up on this tower, like just sniper shooting everybody he can see. And it follows just these different people that are all involved, and there's so many different kind of personalities, and they use animation and animated characters along with regular traditional documentary interviews to tell the story. And it was so moving, and it was so creative, something different. It was very inspirational, and it was really cool how, like, a lot of these, or was really fascinating how, like, a lot of these people had never dealt with it, because that was just the 60s. That was what you did. You just you just didn't talk about these kinds of things, and so making this documentary was actually very healing for a bunch of the participants, which was just blew my mind all these years later. And there's like one guy who's like a total John McClane type, and he was awesome. And there's another lady who like crawls on her belly to help and just hold the hand of this pregnant woman who's been shot. And so it was really, really wonderful. And like I said, the animation was very, very cool, interesting, different touch. Next, I have Hoop Dreams. This film really changed my life. Like, it really made me think about people in a new way. I think before I saw it, I had this idea of like who inner city people were. And then I saw Hoop Dreams, and it made me realize that they're just families just like anybody else. And to see, particularly my favorite moment is when the one boy's mother graduates from nursing school, and that's just like such a triumphant moment for her after all she's been through. And the movie's not about basketball, it's about these people and their lives, and it's just such a moving, wonderful story. Next, I have Young at Heart. This is a really sweet documentary about this choir of senior citizens who go around and sing like rock songs like Nirvana and stuff like that. And it's just, I think that we look at people that are elderly as being like worthless sometimes, and we're very rude towards them. And so I think that it is really great to watch this documentary and be reminded that they're people just like anybody else and need to be loved and treated with respect, and that they have something to offer. And so this is a really good one. Next, I have one that's not really a movie, it's a TV show, but I'm gonna count it. I'm gonna talk about the Civil War. This was the miniseries by Ken Burns. This is still my favorite of his that he has done. I think that he really hasn't made a bad one in my opinion, but this one is just so immersive, so moving. The voice actors are so great that they have voicing all these different characters, and the music I love. Ashley Kent's Farewell is played throughout, and it's just one of my favorite melodies. And I just, yeah, I feel like I watch it every couple of years or whatever, and I never felt to be very moved. I grew up in Maryland, and so I've been to a lot of those battlefields and a lot of those things, and so it just feels very real, and it's very, it's just so interesting to learn about our history and to feel the emotion that he's able to bring, like I said, through the music and through the voice acting and through everything else. And so I love Shelby Foote on there. He's just a great scholar, and he's really fun. Last one, and this is probably the greatest documentary ever made, is Grey Gardens. And this documentary is really a fly on the wall kind of documentary. It's the Big and Little Edie. They are related to Jackie Onassis Kennedy, and they live in the Hamptons, but their house is just like completely falling apart, and there's like raccoons and all kinds of animals, and they just live in this sort of filth, but like they have these sort of delusions. And so part of the movie feels really sad, especially little Edie, because like she has I can't think of the word, she has alopecia. And so she wears these scarves, and she became like a fashion icon. This movie was very influential, but she wears these scarves, and she talks about her dreams and things she wanted to do, but she's just there in this mess and this dirt, and so there's this bittersweet quality to it, but there's also this joy, and that, especially with little Edie, that she's somehow managing to smile through all of this. and that she's just such a vibrant, amazing personality that there's something beautiful about that, despite this just junk that they're living in. And so yeah, it's just mesmerizing to watch. So those are some of my favorite documentaries. Like I said, they're not in necessarily numerical order, but let me know what some of your favorite documentaries are. I'd love to hear, and if you've seen any of these, put your comments in the comment section. And thanks so much. Please subscribe to my channel. I'll talk to you later. Bye!